Hey guys, welcome to the first video of our YouTube channel. My wife and I were starting this channel because we're going to be building a house, and we thought it would be interesting to sort of have a video series online showing how we built it. It's going to be a little bit of a, well, it's non-standard, I'll say. I'll talk about why in a minute. We're going to walk up and let the chickens out and give them the scraps from breakfast, but while we're going up, I'll explain what we're going to be doing. So, my wife and I, we're living in Texas Hill Country. That's where we are right now. We purchased this land a few years ago. I had built this barndominium that's behind us right now. We've been living on our land, and we're going to be starting the framing of the foundation, I should say the forming of our foundation today. So I'm going to be just staking out a few last things, and then the forms are going to be, they're going to start going up today. But I want to kind of talk about how we settled on the house style that we're building. We're in Texas Hill Country. We were walking through a town that's nearby us. And we were kind of contemplating what kind of house we wanted to build. We started planning to build a house sort of in 2021 timeframe, and the prices of materials were still very high. So let's pause and let the chickens out their thoughts. Come on, guys. They only get a little bit of scraps this morning. These are not chickens. These are called guinea fowl. I think they're from Africa originally. You can see they're definitely not chickens. When we first bought chickens, we went to the store and a lot of the chickens were gone, but there's a whole tray of these guineas left. This is now a couple times before, so not these chickens, but when we first purchased chickens. And I said, well, look at all these guinea fowl. I'm like, I thought they were just chickens. I didn't do my research. So we ended up buying some guinea fowl, and they grew up into this. And then we kind of learned that they're not chickens at all. They're kind of crazy birds. They're good watchdogs. They eat a lot of bugs. They eat scorpions and ticks around here, which are really good. So we like having them around. They can be pretty loud sometimes, though. So to continue on what I was saying, my wife and I, we were considering what kind of house we wanted to build, and it was in the 2021 time frame, and the price of building materials were very expensive during that time frame, just because of all the stuff that was going on. So we were kind of contemplating what kind of house we wanted to build and what kind of house we could afford, and we were walking down a main street in a town that's nearby us, and we saw these big limestone blocks that were being used to block off a parking lot. And we were thinking we didn't know if we wanted to do like an A-frame or just a traditional stick build or something else, and we were kind of contemplating these ideas when we saw these stones, and I thought, well, why not just stack these big blocks? Where we are in Texas, there's a lot of stone buildings here, and that's just because limestone itself is a very abundant material. Like if we look down here, all the ground here is kind of white with rock. That's because this is where we put in our leach field, and it's all dug up right now. So all this white stone on the ground, it's all limestone. Because of that, limestone is actually a pretty cheap building material in this part of Texas. I don't know, maybe it's cheaper in other parts of Texas too, I can't really say. But we saw those limestone blocks, and I thought, well, why don't we just stack these? These are just some random blocks I have over here that were extra from when I built my chicken coop. These are limestone blocks. So this is the kind of block that you'd normally see on a house. This one's maybe 3.5 to 4 inches thick, and they vary in length. They also vary in thickness, but typically they look something like this. These just came from some landscape supplier probably. But what people will do is they will stick frame their house, and then I would say the majority of houses that you see that are stone on the outside are just a stick frame with a stone fascia, something like this, or maybe like some sort of flagstone, which is like a randomly shaped limestone. What we're going to be building our house out of is, if you can imagine this stone, but the stones we're using are going to be 5 feet long. Those are the guineas I'm talking about. So they're good watchdogs, but they're kind of loud. It's going to be about 5 feet long, a foot and a half thick, and 2 feet tall. So around this region of Texas, and I'm pretty sure other places, they call those butter sticks because they look like giant butter sticks. So we're going to be building our house out of those butter stick blocks. When we first saw those blocks and we thought it might have been a good idea, I think it was mainly because, you know, in my mind, previously I always thought that a stone build would be very expensive. But these blocks are so big, I thought that maybe, you know, the amount of masonry needed would be a little bit less because you don't have so many joints. And I thought that it might just be cheaper. It turns out that when we started looking into it, it is now building prices and materials have come down. So now it's about the same price as a stick frame. But at that time, it was actually cheaper to build with stone. So we kept the stone idea. It's been maybe a year or so, and now we're gonna start the build today. So the way we're gonna do this build is we're gonna be, you know, when you see these large blocks, the majority of time they're being used to build retaining walls, or they're being used for some like utility purpose, like what I was saying before, blocking off a driveway or blocking off a parking lot. That's called dry stacking. Basically, is when you make a retaining wall and they're just stacked and there's no mortar between them. That's what they call dry stacking. Typically, that's how they build retaining walls. With these limestone blocks, they're so large, they're so heavy that once you set them in place, they're not going to really move. Obviously, for a house, it's not going to work because you have to shield it from the elements and the wind and the rain and stuff. So we're going to be doing wet stacking, which is typically what you would think of when you do a masonry build. Everything's going to be mortared together. The joints are going to be mortared. So we'll walk over to where we're going to put the house. It's an empty lot as of this morning, and by the end of the day, hopefully there's some forms that are going to be going up. But we'll walk over there and we'll kind of talk about the orientation of the house and what our plan for it is. So another reason why limestone, we like the idea of limestone is because with a traditional stick frame, you have the framing of the walls, then you have your siding, you have to dry it in. On the interior, you have your sheetrock, you have insulation, paint, you know, however you're going to finish the inside of the wall. So you have multiple layers, so there's a multiple process, or there's multiple steps. With what we're doing on the exterior walls, we don't need exterior paint, we don't need exterior siding. For the interior part of the exterior walls, we're not doing any sheetrock, any paint. So the inside and outside walls, perimeter walls, are gonna be just pure stone. It makes it actually quite a bit easier. We're not doing any insulation because some deers over there. We're not doing any insulation because the stone is a foot and a half thick and it's pretty well insulated. The interior walls will have insulation as well as the roof, but what we're staring at right now is, this is kind of the west, this is the east facing side of the house. So if you can imagine, this is going to be the corner. This is the southeast corner, and the house is going to be kind of going this way, and it's going to be a rectangle around here. So the house is 55 feet, roughly, 55 feet by 33 and a half feet. The exterior is going to be a little bit over 1,800 square feet. It's not exactly 55, it's 55 feet 4 inches by 33 feet 10 inches. But the exterior is going to be a little bit over 1,800 feet, and the interior is going to be a little bit over 1,500 feet, around 1,600 feet. And that's just due to the thickness of the stone and other factors. So you can imagine these stones are going to be pretty heavy. Each one weighs around between 1,300 and 1,400 pounds depending on the density of the limestone. When they cut these out of the quarry, we're putting in an order to a local quarry. They cut them all out of the same layer, so they all are going to match and have the same similar colors. Depending on the layer and which region the quarry is in, the limestone has slightly different density and slightly different color, but hopefully it's going to be all uniform. But those blocks are about 1,300 to 1,400 pounds, and so you can imagine that the walls are going to be very heavy. So we had engineering done on the foundation. We have plans. The beam is going to be a minimum of 27 inches thick and 2 feet thick. It's going to go, all the way around, and then there's going to be some beams that intersect the middle of the slab as well. So if we can kind of picture what it's going to be, I said this was the southeast corner of the building. This is of the house. We're going to have a 10-foot porch on top of this that goes 10 feet out, and it's going to extend the full 55 feet. So the whole front of the house is going to be a big porch. It'll be a nice area to hang out and entertain or whatever you want to do. The walls are going to be 10 feet tall, maybe a little bit over 10 feet, because each stone is 2 feet tall, and we're going to have 5 layers of those. So the walls will be 10 feet tall, stacked. The house is mainly symmetrical. There's 3 windows on each short end, and on the front there's going to be 3 doors, three sets of doors, 2 windows, and on the back there's a door and some windows. So the house is going to look kind of symmetrical. The way we kind of our vision for this house was, we didn't want really big bedrooms. We kind of, even my wife and I, we don't hang out. We never hung out in our bedroom. Basically, we were outside or we're doing something, and basically it's only at the end of the day where we actually go into the bedroom to go to bed. So the bedrooms in this house are not going to be big. Where you have 2 like smaller kids' bedrooms, those are going to be 10.5 by 11. So it's not too big. But the main room of the house is going to be big. It's going to be about 28 feet by 30 feet. So a large center main room with a vaulted ceiling. The vaulted ceiling is going to be around, I have to look at my plans, but I think it's around 18 feet or so, 20 feet or so. The roof is going to be a 6/12 pitch. So it's going to be, you're going to walk in and it's going to be a really large room. There's going to be some open trusses. So all these things are kind of, we're excited. It's all just an idea phase right now, but as I mentioned before, starting this morning, we're getting our porta potty delivered, and we are gonna start forming it up. So anyway, I know I talked a lot, but I hope you guys enjoy this video series. I think it's gonna be interesting as we go along. There's gonna be some quirks that I talk about when you have pure stone walls. You have to think about what's gonna be going in the slab, because you can't route anything in the walls. So there's gonna be all sorts of little quirks and things that aren't part of a normal build, and as we encounter those, I'll kind of make videos about them and talk about them, and it should be interesting. So I hope you come back and watch more.